Jaya Shriman Narayana. Jaya Bhagavan Shri Krishna. Jaya Shri Guru. Sanatana Dharma Jayate. Dharma Rashtra Jayate. Surya Vangsha Jayate. Om Hri Om. Namaste everyone, and welcome to our live stream Satsanga. This is brought to you every Monday by the International Sanatana Dharma Society. It is absolutely my pleasure to be here with you on this evening. And what we're going to be doing this evening is something quite special and quite different. What we're going to be doing is celebrating the Guru, celebrating who is the Guru, what it means to be a Guru, celebrating several of our Gurus in our extremely long lineage stretching back to the beginning of time, etc. And let me explain why we are doing this on this specific day. Wednesday is what is called Guru Purnima. Guru Purnima is one of the most important Vedic holidays. It's celebrated by all Hindus throughout the world, so roughly 1 billion people celebrate this day. And it is indeed the day to celebrate the Guru. The truth of the matter is, for individuals who are serious spiritual practitioners, we celebrate the Guru every day. For myself, I celebrate the Guru every day. I celebrate my Gurus. But this is a very nice holiday where, especially once a year, it is brought to our awareness who exactly is the Guru. What is called Guru Tattva, Shri Guru Tattva, the principle of Shri Guru. So it's a very wonderful day in which, again, the Guru in general, but also very specific Gurus are celebrated. Now, what we're going to be doing today will be indeed quite different. And that is that, well, first I'm going to give a talk. That's not different. I always do. But then what is different is that afterwards, I will be speaking about all of the individuals behind me. I've had the question many times. Who are the individuals in these portraits behind me? And of course, it's obvious, if you can see them at all, that of course these are Gurus, these are authentic Gurus, these are legitimate Gurus, and very specifically they are Gurus in our lineage. But again, many people have asked, well, who are these people? And in some cases, people in the audience will know a few of them, maybe one, maybe two, maybe three. But it's a very rare thing that a person will know who each and every one of these individuals are. So later, after my talk, I'm going to be going through these portraits that are behind me and once and for all explaining to people who these people are. But I will speak more about that later. I don't want to give anything away. So with that, we're going to dive into the talk for today, which is explaining what is the nature of Guru and why is it of such importance that if an individual, and I'm going to state this very emphatically, if an individual is on the Vedic path especially, if you're something else, fine, you do whatever you want. That's none of our concern. But if an individual claims to be on the Vedic path, if they claim to be following Sanatana Dharma, if they claim to be following Hinduism, if they claim that they are a yogi in the real sense, not the New Age LA sense, but in the true sense of what it means to be a yogi, then if that individual is sincere, then they need to have a guru in their life. They need to have an individual who can help to guide them spiritually. Now, more modernistic, new age folk who pretend to be spiritual when in actuality they are rootless. They don't have any foundation in anything real, anything ancient, anything scriptural, anything authentic, etc. Such individuals, of course, will once in a while say, indeed, I remember when a few years ago, a book with the stupidest title conceivable came out, and I remember seeing it once in a while in the bookstore. It was something like How to Be Your Own Guru or something like that. When you hear such individuals saying such things, oh, I don't need a guru, I will be my own guru, etc., etc., you are experiencing someone who is not sincere. You're experiencing someone who is not following Sanatana Dharma, not following the Vedic way, not following Hinduism. You are experiencing someone, you are in the presence of someone who is not a true yogi. You're experiencing someone who will make very, very, very little spiritual progress in this life, if any. And the reason why is because, again, to have a guru is an honor. It's not a burden. Today, of course, people think it's a burden to have a guru because, well, there are so many fake spiritual teachers out there. Well, when we use the word guru, by definition, the word guru itself means an authentic individual, an authentic spiritual teacher, an authentic spiritual master. There is no such thing as a fake guru. There are fake people pretending to be gurus. But if an individual is indeed a true guru, then that means that they are indeed something that is radically authentic. So this is what we mean by this term guru. You will hear me say this word probably a minimum of 100 times tonight. And please keep in mind that when I am using this word, when anyone knowledgeable is using this word, this is what they mean. An authentic and legitimate spiritual teacher who has achieved enlightenment in such a manner that they then have the ability to deliver truth unto their students. So this is what we are celebrating today and the importance of having a guru. Now, all that being said, we're going to go through several verses from a variety of Vedic scriptures. And if you wish to follow along, please feel free to just go to the description of this video. You'll see all these verses. The first one that we're going to look at is Chandogya Upanishad 6:18-2. And this is very short and very to the point and very blunt. Only one who has an acharya can know the truth. Only one who has an acharya can know the truth. And this is the Sanskrit. This is how it's translated precisely from the Sanskrit. I've looked at the Sanskrit. And what is an acharya? An acharya is very specifically a very special form of guru, not just any form of guru. To be a guru itself is a time-honored position and role and responsibility. But an acharya, very specifically, is a preceptor. That is an individual who, in addition to teaching individuals, audiences, etc., larger groups of people, an acharya is distinguished traditionally from simply a guru in that an acharya is what is called a lineage holder. They represent a sampradaya. They represent an actual lineage. So that is what an acharya is. And again, this verse is very blunt. Only one who has an acharya can know the truth. So in other words, as I was saying a moment ago, if a person wishes to know truth, as much as in modernity, people don't want to have a guru and they're skeptical of gurus, etc., etc., if there is a true guru who you have access to, which is a rare thing these days, then it is crucial that if you wish to progress spiritually, you take shelter of that individual. Now let's go on. The next verse we're going to look at is Bhagavad Gita, chapter 4, verse 34. And this is a very well-known verse, and this is Krishna himself speaking. Just try to learn the truth by approaching a spiritual master. Inquire from him submissively and render service unto him. The self-realized soul can impart knowledge unto you because he has seen the truth. Here is what I like to call the epistemological, not only mechanism, but also in a very detailed, very nice way, the epistemological process by which an individual who wishes to know truth will, with humility, approach another individual who has that truth. So I want to just go through this very quickly. We won't go too in depth. because I've spoken about this verse in the past. So first of all, just try to learn the truth. It's interesting, this is Prabhupada's translation. And as people know, I consider Prabhupada's translation to be the very best of all translations that are available today in this day and age, in the English language or any language, for that matter, any modern language. And it's very interesting how he translates this and the little subtleties that are here. First of all, just try to learn the truth. Right there we can stop. Just try to learn the truth. Here Krishna is explaining to us that indeed, first of all, we must take recourse in truth. If we wish to have happy lives, peaceful lives, good lives, etc., then we need to surrender to the truth. And it's interesting how Krishna says this in such a direct yet humble way. Just try to learn the truth. In other words, what I'm known for saying all the time, don't play games. Yes, stop. You want to debate, you want to debate, you want to speculate, you want to speculate, you want to read 10,000 different books but never come to any conclusion, you want to play on the internet, indeed play on the internet, watch 10,000 different videos from different spiritual traditions, but you never settle upon anything. Stop playing games. Just try to learn the truth. And how? Now comes the epistemological element. By approaching a spiritual master, by approaching a guru. Inquire from him submissively. Now this is important. It's very interesting how in many, many verses, of course, of necessity, we have lists of the qualities of a true guru. How do you know? Well, a true guru looks like this, they say this, etc., etc. They behave in this way. But to me, what is also always interesting is when you also have verses that talk from the perspective of the student. What is the student to do? See, the responsibility is not all on the part of the guru. The student also has to do what they need to do as well. And here, this is what Krishna is saying. Inquire from him submissively. In other words, you find such an individual, as I said before, the rarest of people today especially, you find such an individual who has proven himself in every way to be someone who is existing in concert with the divine. You don't challenge him. You don't go to him with ego. Rather, submissively, that is, with humility, in other words. You inquire from him. You ask pertinent questions, questions that are of importance. And you render service unto him. This is meant quite literally. Quite literally. It's not just, you like the guru and you say something pleasant to him once in a while. Oh, thank you so much for your teachings, and you go off. No, I didn't have time to compile all these hundreds of verses. But in the Dharma Shastras and many, many places actually, it goes very in depth into what it means once you find a guru. You serve that person, and that means physically you serve that person. You ask the person, what can I do? What can I do? Please, Guruji, how can I help you? I did this quite literally for my Guru Bhakti-Rakshaka Sridhar Swami when I was living in his ashram twice, 1985 and 1986. When I was living in his ashram, I would do service, I would do seva. And this is also what it means to approach a guru, is that it's not all just intellectual, it's not all just verbal, but in actuality, it's an action. These are the three modes of activity: the intellectual, the verbal, and then actually doing things. When it comes to doing anything spiritually, and I mean anything, this means practicing one's sadhana. This means when doing things in the world in order to try to sustain and to foster dharma in the world. But it also means in your relationship with the guru. So part of it is certainly intellectual. You ask philosophical questions. And of course, if the guru is worth his salt, if, again, he is for real, he will answer your questions perfectly and without fluff, without nonsense. He will answer your questions perfectly. It is a verbal relationship that you have, and that the guru is speaking, and you listen. You listen very attentively. You listen in a very sincere sort of way. But then again, you also ask questions. But then also it is a relationship in action. That is, you need to prove yourself to the guru. The guru, if he is your guru, has already proven himself to you. That should at least be the case. That should be the case. Now you need to prove yourself. You need to prove your worth by showing your sincerity. How do you do that? By not remaining merely on the mental or the verbal plane, but by now literally putting your body and your actions where your mouth and your mind are. So you literally serve the Guru. You bring the Guru a glass of water when you see he's thirsty, etc., a million ways. So render service unto him. And then the self-realized soul can impart knowledge unto you. And why? What does Krishna say? Because he has seen the truth. He has seen the truth. This is why the self-realized being has the ability to change people's lives for the better and to change their lives from the inside out, is because this is not just an ordinary being who you are interrelating with, who you're communicating with, who you are in the presence of. Again, if it is a true guru, it is someone who, the reason why they have the ability to do what they do, to speak how they speak, to do what they do within the world, is because they are empowered directly by God. And the reason why they are empowered directly by God is for one reason, and that is that they have literally had that darshana of truth. They have seen the truth in a way that cannot be acquired via books, that cannot be acquired via a YouTube video or anything else, but by direct perception of the Absolute. That Guru very quietly has actually experienced God. And that's what gives them the power to change your life for the better. So thus, this is what Krishna says. Satyayaniya Upanishad will be next, and this is verse 40. Quote, "He who has supreme faith in God and the same faith in his Guru is a knower of Brahman, who reaches supreme beatitude. Such is the teaching of the Veda." This is one of the 108 Upanishads. This is one of our scriptures if you are a follower of Sanatana Dharma. And this verse cannot make it more clear. But still, we will go through this just briefly. He who has supreme faith in God and the same faith in his Guru. Let's stop here now. Indeed, faith is something that I've spoken about many times in the past. And it is truly of importance to have faith in God. In other words, we have had our experience of God. We have read about God. We understand certain things to a limited degree, maybe, but still we understand what is the nature of God. As a result of this, we now have supreme faith. We are to have faith in God that is unchallengeable, that is unbreakable, to the point where externally, whatever happens to us, we never lose that faith in God, not even for a moment. This is what we are to have if we are to be successful on the spiritual path. Now, that many people know, many people will agree with, hopefully everyone in my audience. But now this Upanishad goes even deeper, and it says you must have that same faith in the Guru. So in other words, supreme faith in the Guru. And again, in the Guru, Guru meaning what? Again, not just some person, some fly-by-night individual who suddenly appears and is selling seminars, selling mantras, etc., etc. This is not what we're talking about. We're talking about an individual who, again, has proven himself to be someone who is radically true, radically authentic in every way. And we just don't have time, sadly, today for me to go too in-depth into what that actually means. What does a true guru look like? Rather, I know that we have a video on finding an authentic guru. That's not the exact title. It's a video we put out a long time ago, so I can't remember the exact title. So if someone does, if you can please put it in the chat, I would appreciate it. But in that video, I speak point by point by point by point by point by point, in accordance with the Vedic scriptures, on what is a guru and what is not a guru. Very, very simple. And indeed, if an individual meets all of this criteria, then you are to have faith in that individual like you are having faith in God. Prabhupada himself said this numerous times. Other gurus have said this numerous times. And it is not that the guru is God. Never make that mistake. And if a guru is worth his salt, again, if a guru is real, The moment that one of his disciples makes the stupid mistake of saying, "Oh, Guruji, I believe you to be an avatar," if that guru is for real, he will right then and there, without hesitation, correct that disciple and say, I appreciate your enthusiasm, but never say that again. I am not God. So indeed, when you find so-called gurus, fake gurus, whose disciples worship them as God, as an avatar, and the so-called guru just remains silent and allows them to do so, that and there, in and of itself, shows you that you have come face to face with a fake. Now let's go on with the rest of this. So one who has such faith is a knower of Brahman. Brahman simply being one of the many, many Sanskrit Vedic terms for God. Such an individual knows God when they have faith in God and in the Guru. So in other words, again, this is the path. And who reaches the supreme beatitude. In other words, such a student is assured of having liberation, and not just liberation. How beautifully this is translated. Reaches supreme beatitude. In other words, knows God intimately. And then finally, such is the teaching of the Veda. Satyayaniya Upanishad says this. So again, no ifs, ands, or buts, no debate, no speculation about this. This Upanishad, which is one of our very important scriptures, says, such is the teaching of the Veda. In other words, this is the Vedic Siddhanta. This is the Vedic conclusion. Go against this, you're going against Veda, period. This is what the Veda teaches, as this Upanishad itself is telling us. Very good. Narada Parivrajaka Upanishad is next, chapter 6, verse 22. Pleasing the Guru by rendering personal service attentively for a long time, the aspirant shall always listen with great attention to his exposition of the truths of the Upanishads. So very nice, very nice. A little bit of repetition of what we have already heard, but that's all right. Again, there are hundreds and hundreds of verses that explain the importance of the Guru, how you have relationship with the Guru, etc. And this is one of them. And of course, there's going to be repetition because it's a science. Trust the science. Science means repetition. Science means that you replicate. You have the ability to replicate. So this is what this verse is saying. Let's go through this quickly. Pleasing the Guru by rendering personal service. Now, again, as Krishna was saying in Bhagavad Gita, that it's not enough to simply in your mind, simply with your mouth, talk with the Guru, praise the Guru, etc., but rather a Guru, and let's go back to the very first verse from Chandogya Upanishad, the Acharya very specifically, that is the lineage holder, the preceptor, most especially is an individual who is not merely a teacher, but someone who has a mission to establish Dharma in this world, in whatever sector he's operating. That being the case, by rendering service, this especially is what is meant, is helping, serving the Guru's mission in any way you can, with whatever talents you have. So this is what is meant here. And then, to finish this clause, attentively for a long time. These are two different things. First of all, attentively, meaning you do so seriously. You do so with awareness. You do so with focus, etc. You pay attention, in other words, in everything you are doing to help the Guru to sustain Dharma for a long time. So in other words, again, not fly by night. Not, oh yes, I had a Guru for a month and I just got bored. I decided to move on to something else. No. But rather, permanence is the hallmark of true spirituality. Not being a nomad, but permanence, meaning long term. And now, the aspirant shall always listen with great attention to his exposition. So as the Guru is speaking, so again, the aspirant will listen. And they will not just listen, they will always listen, and with great attention. So in other words, they will be focused. This is what it means to be a yogi, is that you have the ability to focus on what is of importance. There can even be 1,500 things going on around you, which are diverse, which are different. but you focus, meaning you know which one of those things is of most importance, and that is what your awareness is on. So always listen with great attention to his talk, to his exposition of the truths of the Upanishads, because this too is also what the guru does. Is really a guru must be someone who is radically conversant with what is called Vedanta. Vedanta means the end of, the culmination of the Vedas, and that is also known as the Upanishads. How do we know our true self? How do we know God? How do we know the upaya, the means toward the artha, toward the goal? It is by reading very specifically the Upanishads. This is why you hear about the Upanishads again and again and again, and how philosophical and how important they are. Indeed, for those who don't know, even Bhagavad Gita is considered to be an Upanishad. Thus it's called Gita Upanishad. So this is what the Guru really teaches, is this living Vedanta, the culmination of wisdom, the culmination of the Vedas, known as the Upanishads. Finally, we have one more verse, and this is from Niralamba Upanishad, and this is verse 30. Worthy of adoration is the Guru who leads one to Brahman, the spirit dwelling in all bodies. Very short, very beautiful, very profound. So worthy of adoration, which is precisely what we're doing today, 2 days before actual Guru Purnima. And this is also what we do on Guru Purnima itself, is we have adoration toward the Guru, both our own Guru, but also Guru in general, Sri Guru Tattva, that is the principle of Sri Guru that has been here since the beginning of time. So worthy of adoration is the Guru who, what? Leads one to Brahman. In other words, again, by definition, a guru is an individual who leads you to God. If they don't have that ability, in fact, let's back up. They would not have the ability to lead one toward God unless they themselves have been led toward God. This is the chain of parampara. This is the continuous flow. That God himself, being Adi Guru, being the first Guru, taught about himself. And those individuals he taught came to know him, came to know God. And then those individuals, as now secondary gurus, taught their disciples because they knew God. And then those disciples came to know God, and on and on and on. This is the chain. So, for an individual to be a true guru, they themselves must have realized God, and thus they have the ability to impart that truth unto others. So they lead one to Brahman, to God. And what is God? The spirit dwelling in all bodies. In other words, Paramatman. This is what God is. So if we wish to know God that is there residing within the heart, next to us, next to our Atman, God as Paramatman, as the Supreme Atman, then we do this via the teachings of Guru. So again, for any individuals who want to claim that, oh, yes, I've been studying Hinduism through Wikipedia University for the last 6 months, and I've concluded gurus are not necessary. No, you're wrong. The totality of the Vedic corpus disagrees. And indeed, I gave you a few verses of what are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of verses that are very similar to these. Some more in depth, some speaking from various angles, but all of which in the same spirit say the same thing. So that being said, I thank you for listening to this talk portion, but now I'm going to do what I promised, and that is that once and for all, having, not purposefully, but because I'm usually so absorbed in my talks that I don't have an opportunity, but now finally I'm going to speak about these individuals who are behind me. And I have a wonderful assistant who's going to help me by actually taking down one at a time the photos so I can show them to you a little bit closer and then talk about each one of these people. We'll start with Narada Muni and then proceed to present time. Narada Muni is certainly the most ancient of these beings. Very good. Thank you. So this is one photo, and I'll try to position it in such a way that you can see well. Very good, and without the computer screen shining. This is Narada Muni, and you've heard me speak about him many times. Indeed, people know that there is a series that I did several years ago that now is being released as a video series called the Narada Bhakti Sutras, where I speak about a book written by Narada Muni that is speaking about the importance of bhakti, how to practice bhakti, etc. For individuals who have not seen that series, we have it on a playlist, so please, when you have a chance, go to our playlist, look up that series, Narada Bhakti Sutras, look at the very first video, and the entire video is simply explaining who Narada Muni is. I lecture for about an hour explaining this, and we'll put him back in a minute, not just yet. Narada Muni is indeed by far, and I'll be very conservative in saying this, one of the most important gurus in the history of our universe. I'm being very conservative in saying this because in actuality, he is by far the most important guru. He is the son of Brahma. He is the son of the creator himself, the creator demiurge. He is someone who is radically liberated and free and has been for millions of years, to the point where he has the ability to traverse the universe and the material and spiritual planes effortlessly. Effortlessly, meaning he can choose to be here on the earth planet, and in the blink of an eye he is with Brahma on Brahma Loka, and blink of another eye he is with the gods in Svarga, and then blink of another eye he is literally in Vaikuntha with God himself, and then another blink of an eye he is on Siddhaloka teaching his disciples there. This is who Narada is. He is radically liberated, radically free. He has written several books. Again, Narada Bhakti Sutras is only one of them, but there are many others, etc. He is still extremely active, meaning he has students throughout this universe, on various planets, including on Earth. There is an ashram here that he visits periodically. So he is someone who is a living guru, very much so. But to encounter him is the rarest of all things. But that is who Narada is. And he is a guru in our lineage. Thank you. And you can give me the next one now. Thank you very much. This is the next person who you always see behind me. And this is someone who people always ask about, including people who are extremely knowledgeable. They don't always necessarily know who this is. This is Sri Nata Muni. Sri Nata Muni. He lived in approximately the 9th century AD, 8th century, 9th century. There's a little bit of debate as far as exactly when he lived. But he is a guru in my lineage, very specifically, and in the lineage of the International Sanatana Dharma Society. Sri Nata Muni is an individual who is known for many things. He himself was an acharya. He himself was a guru. More than anything, however, he himself was a bhakta, that is a devotee of Vishnu, and a yogi. He was a true yogi in every sense of this term. He practiced perfectly the Ashtanga system in accordance with the teachings of not only Patanjali, but the Upanishads. He taught the yoga system in its perfect and full-fledged form, a form that up until recently was almost lost upon the earth plane, on this planet. He taught what is called upasana, which is, again, the yoga of the Upanishads. That is, for those who know yoga a little bit, if you can envision the Ashtanga system, but permeated through and through with bhakti, with devotion. That is what is called upasana. And this is what Sri Nata Muni taught. He wrote 3 books, including the Yoga Rahasya, The Secrets of Yoga, is the translation of that. He wrote a book called The Secrets of Yoga. Sadly, and every time I even have to say this, it breaks my heart, all of his books are gone. They are no longer extant. We do not have his books for reasons I cannot go into. But yes, his books are gone, but his teachings are not. And one other thing that he is famous for is he did compile a book, Nalayira Divya Prabandham is the name of this very, very important book. It consists of 4,000 poems to Vishnu, to Krishna, etc., that were created by the Alvars, very great saints. He is the person who put together the Divya Prabandham. So that is Sri Nata Muni. And with that, in a moment, we will continue. Thank you. Mm-hmm. Now, this person is a little bit better known, and again, I'll try to position his photo so that there's no light in the way or anything. This is Ramanuja Acharya. Ramanuja was and is by far the most important Vedic philosopher in the history of Sanatana Dharma, let's say at least within the context of the Kali Yuga. And I don't say that lightly. He is the greatest. It doesn't matter what other people say. It doesn't matter if someone says, no, this one is the greatest philosopher, that one is the greatest philosopher, etc. I've read them all. I've read Shankaracharya, I've read Madhva Acharya, I've read so many of these different individuals, including their commentaries. I've read their full commentaries on the Brahma Sutras, in some cases in Sanskrit. And I've also read Ramanuja. He is by far the most important philosopher in the history of Sanatana Dharma. And he lived in Tamil Nadu approximately a little bit more than 1,000 years ago is when he was born. And he is known for many things, too many to list actually on this short live stream. But one of which is that he wrote the Sri Bhashya. He wrote the commentary on the Vedanta Sutras, on the Brahma Sutras. That is the most important, the most conclusive commentary, bar none, on the Brahma Sutras. So this is who Ramanuja is. And indeed, he also is, as is true for the other people I have mentioned and will mention, he is in my lineage. And he is in the lineage of the International Sanatana Dharma Society, this great, great philosopher and bhakta, Sri Ramanuja Acharya. Thank you. Now we're going to be jumping ahead very, very much, very dramatically. This next individual who we will be speaking of, this is Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakura. Bhaktivinoda Thakura. He lived primarily in the 19th century in Bengal, what was called Bengal back then, what is now West Bengal. And he was truly a great individual. He was an individual who, even though indeed he was born and raised in Bengal and he never left the nation, he never left India, he was someone who was extremely well educated in Western knowledge. And when I say well educated, I don't mean he just read Shakespeare on his own. I mean he was a barrister. He was someone who was a lawyer. He eventually ended up becoming a judge, actually, under the British Raj, under British rule. He was someone who was extremely well educated, very eloquent. He knew English perfectly. He had to be in the Raj administration. And he was someone who, as far as material success, he had it. He was someone who, again, he ended up being a judge in Orissa, I believe, the state of Orissa, but also in Bengal. He lived in Bengal. He was someone who had a very big family. I forget how many children, but at least maybe 10 children, something like that. So he was married, he had children, etc. But he also was a bhakta. He was someone who was devoted to Krishna to the point where in his spare time, if you could say that he had any, being a judge and having 10 children, in his spare time, he used every second of his day to teach people about Krishna, to try to revive Krishna consciousness in India itself. He wrote many dozens of books, for example. He started a movement. He did many, many, many different things. But he was truly a great example, especially for those individuals among us who there are many who are married, who either have or are going to have or wish to have children. who want to have successful careers in this world, but who also want to have Krishna centered in their lives. Bhaktivinoda Thakur is an example of this. So that is who this is. Just as an aside, interestingly, when I was in India, when I was at my Guru's ashram, both times that I ventured there, I visited the home of Bhaktivinoda Thakur. And it is truly a very, very special, very sacred place. When I was there, thank you. When I was there, it was truly astounding seeing what was quite literally his home, and it looked almost untouched. First time I went there was 1985, so I don't know what it's like now. But when I went there to Bhaktivinoda's home, it seemed untouched. His furniture was there. His typewriter was there. There was a courtyard or a yard, I'm not sure what you would call it exactly, behind his home, where there was a large, almost like a podium type structure that was there. And what I was told is that that's where he would meditate. He would sit on there and this concrete little structure, and he would chant the names of Krishna there. So I was very, very fortunate to see this myself, Bhaktivinoda's actual home. The next individual who we are going to be speaking of is Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. And interestingly, he is the son, the biological son of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, the last person who we spoke of. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, again, if I were to do justice to explaining these people and their qualities and what they did, etc., I probably would have to take a minimum of 1 hour per person. So just to let you know, I'm giving you a summation of a summation of a summation thumbnail form in explaining these people. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, again, he was the son of Bhaktivinoda Thakur. He was an individual who, from the very beginning of his life, even as a child, he knew what he wanted to do. He understood having this great guru as his father, as his example. He understood that he wanted to spend his life continuing his father's work and also teaching Vaishnava Dharma and throughout the world. So Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, several interesting things about him. First of all, he was a lifelong brahmachari. He ended up taking sannyasa, being a swami, but he was celibate all of his life. He never married. He never had any relationship with women. He was celibate from the second he was born until the second that he left this world. He's someone who early in his life, before he became a guru, he took a vow to recite 1 billion, and yes, that's billion with a B, names of Krishna. And it took him about a year. He isolated himself in a forest in Bengal, and he sat there, and day after day after day, he chanted the names of Krishna, counting them on beads until he finally reached 1 billion. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, he is also known as Prabhupada. Now, some people may or may not know this. There is A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, who, of course, we all know as the founder of the Hare Krishna movement, etc. But Bhaktisiddhanta also was known originally first as Prabhupada. And the reason why is because of precisely what he did. He was the master at whose feet other masters sit. In other words, once Bhaktisiddhanta left the planet, many of his disciples ended up becoming truly, truly, truly important gurus. One of those was Prabhupada. Another was my guru, whose ashram I visited and who I took initiation from, Sridhar Maharaj. But there are many, many, many others as well. Bhaktisiddhanta also, of course, wrote many books. He sent his disciples throughout the world. He had disciples of his who he sent. Some of them came to America and lectured in America. Several of them went to Europe, to many nations in Europe, including England, including Germany in the 1930s. Indeed, some of his disciples met individuals in the German administration of the 1930s. And these individuals greeted his disciples with great respect. So this is who Bhaktisiddhanta was. He was fearless in his teaching of Sanatana Dharma. And indeed, one of his nicknames is Singha Guru, the Lion Guru, because of, indeed, how fearless he was. This is Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakura. No. And now finally we have this photo, and it is a truly powerful photo indeed. This is a photo of two gurus sitting together, and anyone who is conversant with Vaishnava Dharma in the West especially, you know who these two individuals are. So seated here is Prabhupada. This is Abhaya Charanaravindra Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada. He is the individual who is by far the most important guru of the 20th century, bar none. There is, and I'll just state this bluntly, because not only do I know, I've written about, I presented academic papers in front of professors about the history of Sanatana Dharma in America and the West. There are few people who know its history and all the gurus who came from India more than I do. And let me say bluntly, Prabhupada is the most important guru in history to come to America and the West, bar none. Bar none, bar none. As far as why, well, I actually gave a 1-hour lecture about this about 7 years ago that we haven't released yet just due to time, where I talk about why Prabhupada was the most important. Many elements of Sanatana Dharma that in 2022 we just kind of take for granted, we just think it was always here. It wasn't. Prabhupada brought it here, including kirtan, for example. People think that, kirtan was always practiced in America by somebody. No, previous to Prabhupada, almost no one knew about kirtan. Maybe one person, maybe two people who ventured to India and heard it. But otherwise, no. Now you have kirtan everywhere. Every yoga center has kirtan. Kirtan here, kirtan there. It was Prabhupada who brought kirtan to America. And puja worship. And Brahmana initiation. And yajna. And so many elements of Sanatana Dharma that, for the most part, were not practiced even by individuals in America in the 1920s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, who considered themselves to be Vedantists or yogis, etc. It was Prabhupada who introduced hundreds of elements of authentic Sanatana Dharma practice and philosophy to the West for the first time. This is why he was the greatest guru, bar none, of the 20th century. And then the other individual who is here, this is Bhakti Rakshaka Sridhar Deva Goswami. And he is the individual whose ashram I visited. He was here on the planet until 1988, which is when he left to be with Krishna, finally. But Bhakti Rakshaka Sridhar Swami is the individual whose ashram I lived in 1985. Then I came back to America, went back in 1986 to again live in his ashram for some time. And he is the individual who gave me both Harinama initiation, but also Brahmana initiation. So thus I wear a Brahmana thread because he bestowed this upon me. So that's who these two individuals are. And both of them, and the reason why they're sitting together, is because they were godbrothers. Their guru was the previous person who I just mentioned and showed you a photo of. That is Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. And they are both leading disciples of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. Now, as far as my guru also had a very interesting mood. His mood was a little bit different from Prabhupada, whereas Prabhupada was very outward going. He had a world mission, and Prabhupada traversed the world many times. He visited all of Europe. He visited South America, Africa, many nations in Asia, North America, etc., etc. My guru never left India. And rather, his way of teaching was very quiet, very humble. Rather than him going to the world came to him, including myself. His disciples came from multiple nations throughout the world and ventured to India to study at his feet. And I was one of them. In my case, coming from New York and living there in his ashram for some time. So this is why they are together, because they also were extremely close friends. in addition to being god brothers, they also were very close friends. And the mutual love and respect that they had for each other is indescribable. So this is who this is. Prabhupada and Sridhar Maharaj. Very nice. Now let me just say, having shown you these photos now and explained who these people are, etc., let me just say that these photos exhibit 7 individuals. And you see our mantelpiece back there is limited. And if we were to try to depict all of the gurus on there, we would need an unlimited mantelpiece. Not quite, but almost. You know, the reason why I have these gurus specifically is because they are representative of the entire lineage, of the entire parampara. And we could only have a few individuals there. And in some cases, not all, but in some cases, there are hundreds and hundreds of years in between one guru and another, etc. But again, we just wanted to have a symbolic representation of our parampara and the many hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pure gurus who are represented in our parampara. So we could not put them all up in any way. But this is who these individuals are. And this is why, not always, because these days I'm now doing live streams from my new office, but very often you will see me doing the live streams with these images behind me. And the reason why is because these are quite literally the people who are behind me. Literally and symbolically and figuratively and in every way. Whenever I speak to you, I don't speak to you on my behalf. I speak to you on their behalf. When I speak to you, the knowledge that I share with you, and what I'm going to say to you is the opposite of what most people today brag about. The knowledge that I present to you does not come from me. I didn't create it. I didn't invent it. I'm not smart enough to create any of the knowledge that I give to you. Rather, the knowledge that I give to you each and every week was graced upon me by these individuals who are behind me, and again, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of others. And when I teach you on their behalf and via their empowerment, and their empowerment alone. So, such is the nature of Sri Guru Tattva, of the principle of Sri Guru. With that, I will stop here. Thank you very much for being here with me for the celebration of the true Guru. What is the true Guru? With that, we don't have a lot of time. We have a few minutes, but I would feel bad if I didn't take a few questions at least. So with that, let me just say, if you have any questions, now is the time. Please feel free to ask. And again, due to time, I won't be able to take many questions, maybe just a few, 1 or 2, if we're lucky, 3, something like that. But again, if you have any questions, now please is the time to ask them. Very nice. Thank you, Jesse, for your wonderful comment. I truly appreciate it very much. Lots of wonderful comments. Very, very good comments. I wish I had time week by week to actually read many of the comments, but sadly I don't. Please give me a moment. Very good. Here's an interesting question from Berserker, and it is, Namaste Sri Acharyaji. When the earth was striking into the lower realms and God saved her in a boar form, was the subtle body of the earth what was sinking, or her physical body? Okay, very good. I'm sorry, I had a little difficulty reading this. Very nice. Excellent question, actually. Oh, this is a question that I do know the answer to, but it is slightly complex, so I'll try to explain this as quickly as I can, but as accurately as I can. Yes. And let me explain what I mean by that. Several things. First of all, it was the most outward form of Bhumi Devi, of the earth, that was manifest at that time. But please keep in mind that the reason why I say both is because this was at a time, it was a different yuga, when all so-called physicality itself was subtler than what exists now. So was it the, let's say, most externalized form of Bhumi Devi? Yes. Could you say it was a physical body in the way that all physical things are perceived now within the context of the Kali Yuga? No. So to our perception, let me give an example just to make this very clear. Let me give an example with Manusha, with humans. We are human beings living in 2022 within the Kali Yuga. Our physical composition has indeed a certain makeup that is extremely gross, extremely dense as far as its physical makeup. Now, if we were to meet a human from Treta Yuga very specifically, we would be meeting a human in quote-unquote physical body, which to our eyes would seem so subtle that we would almost think that we were looking at a god. We would almost see through them. We would have a difficult time perceiving them, etc. Now, would we be looking at their most external feature? Yes, we would. But from our perspective, it would be nothing like the physicality that we speak of today. So if that makes sense, the same with Bhumi Devi. So that's why yes and no. So that is the answer to that question. Again, please give me a few moments as I look at some more of these questions. And I'm sorry, very specifically, I'm looking for questions that I know I can answer quickly, because again, we're actually at the top of the hour, but I feel bad if I don't have an opportunity to answer at least some questions, because I know you're asking them very sincerely. Very good. Here is a question that I'm going to answer because it pertains very specifically to what we spoke of today, and it is an important question. And this may be the last question that I'll take. We'll see. This is from New World Over. Namaste, Sri Acharya Ji. You just made a few of my students chuckle. They love that name, New World Over. Namaste, Sri Acharya Ji. Do the many self-proclaimed gurus on social media pose a threat to Sanatana Dharma as far as misinformation is concerned? Why are Vedic concepts now viewed as trendy? To answer the question, absolutely. Absolutely. Individuals who pose themselves as gurus, again, on YouTube, on Facebook, on all this social media, who are truly nobodies. And I say that not to be insulting, actually. It's extremely accurate because, again, I know this path. I know the history of it. I know who's out there, who's teaching, what they're saying. This is all I do 24 hours a day. For the most part, is just Sanatana Dharma. And I keep up with everything. Who's the latest person who appeared out of nowhere? They're nobodies, meaning that most of them either do not have a guru themselves, or if they do, it's not a serious lineage. It's, oh yes, this person was my guru, and who was their guru? It's kind of one of those things. They're not in serious lineages. They're people who, all right, what is your qualification? Oh, I visited India once and visited some temples. Oh, that's my qualification to be a guru now. Okay, nice. These are nobodies. These are individuals who, for the most part, they're not authentic. They're not orthodox followers of Sanatana Dharma, meaning that they're in one of the sampradayas, initiated properly, etc., etc. They're not individuals who have studied the scriptures in any way. Oh, they'll claim that they have until they meet me, and then I'll ask them something from the Mahabharata, from the Shanti Parva, and they don't even know what that is, what to speak of having read it. And to answer your question directly, yes, as a result of all the above of what I just said, much of what they teach is indeed made up. It has to be. They have no choice but to make it up because they don't have a real guru, because they're not in a real lineage, because they're very new. Meaning, oh yes, 5 years ago I started practicing this, or 10 years ago, a year ago. Because they haven't studied the scriptures. Maybe they read some paperback version of Bhagavad Gita put out by Bantam House or something like that. They haven't studied the Vedic scriptures. They haven't studied the actual words and teachings of authentic acharyas, authentic rishis, etc., etc., etc. As a result of all that, of necessity, what they say is half made up. The rest of it, fluffy filler with buzzwords that sound very spiritual. And they'll say, they'll sometimes even maybe pull something from Bhagavad Gita before they give a talk, and say, oh yes, Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita that airplane food tastes really bad. Or they'll literally just make something up like this. And as a result, it's not merely that they're frauds, it's not merely that they make things up, but very often, indeed, because these individuals are insulting Sanatana Dharma, indeed insulting God, rather than doing its opposite. As a result of this, it's not merely that what they're teaching is made up, it's indeed opposite of Sanatana Dharma. It's detrimental to individuals who truly want to know what is truth. So there are hundreds of examples that I can give, and I have in the past, but I won't now. But let me just say, radical universalism is one of them. This is the most prevalent thing. As soon as you find a so-called guru, whether they call themselves that or not, if they're acting like an authorized spiritual teacher on YouTube, and they start saying, oh, all religions are one, and it doesn't matter what you follow. Oh, who am I? Oh, I am a Christian, Buddhist, Gnostic, Hindu Druid, and it's all one, it's all truth. As soon as you hear this, you are looking into the eyes, and the sounds are entering your ears of a fraud, an absolute fraud. These are individuals who are saying the opposite of what Sanatana Dharma says. Sanatana Dharma does not teach radical universalism. On the contrary, Sanatana Dharma makes a very clear distinction of Vaidika versus Avaidika, Nastika versus Astika, what is truth, what is untruth. Throughout the history of Sanatana Dharma, had these people actually read something, they would have seen that the great acharyas are very blunt. They'll say, this entire religion, this religion here is wrong. In fact, it's contrary to Dharma, and then they will outline why. Because of A, B, C, D, E, F, G, etc., etc., etc. And for these individuals to think that the rishis were all these radical universalists with no discernment power or ability whatsoever, no, these people are damaging the reputation of Sanatana Dharma. So indeed, the vast majority of individuals who you will encounter, whether they're spiritual coaches, or tarot readers, or they look somewhat Vedic, they seem to have a Sanskrit name. Oh, my name is such and such Ananda. Maybe they're even a Swami or whatever. Let me state this more overtly than I ever have. 98% of them are fakes. 98%. I used to say 90% to not shock people too much. So indeed, this is why, as I began this talk saying, to find an authentic guru is not like going to a store and buying bubble gum. You do not have a right, actually, to have an authentic guru at all, unless you have proven yourself. If you want a truly authentic guru, then you prove yourself, and then a guru indeed will appear before you. And if one has not appeared yet, that's the reason why. Prove yourself. Be sincere. Have humility. Use discernment. Begin, at least initially, to study the Vedic scriptures on your own. See, this is what we do. We study the Vedic scriptures such that we can know what is truth, at least in the very beginning way, so we can also know what is a true guru, so that we can then find a true guru, have a true guru, so that now we can study the Vedic scriptures for real. That's the process. You begin by reading Bhagavad Gita, some of the Upanishads, but then you find an authentic guru so that now you can dive into the Vedic scriptures like you couldn't before. and in this way truly have wisdom, have knowledge, have that knowledge that is necessary to safely and effectively and authentically traverse the path that is known as Sanatana Dharma in such a way that it's not just a mental game anymore. It's not just an intellectual game anymore, but rather you are traversing that path with the goal of knowing your true self via realization, and then finally experiencing the very presence of God there within you. That's the goal, and this is how we do it. So indeed, these individuals who are out there and they're obviously frauds, you must avoid them by all means. And yes, these individuals harm people who are sincere. They harm the reputation of Sanatana Dharma, and in time, in the future, they have to and they shall be swept away. That is also the goal of the International Sanatana Dharma Society, is to not allow people anymore to steal from this tradition, claim that they represent this tradition, when these individuals don't even know themselves. So indeed, this will have to come to an end, and it will come to an end, and we will assure that in the future. With that, we are indeed past the time. So I have to stop here. I'm sorry for those individuals for who I could not answer your questions. But again, this was a special day. We are celebrating Guru Purnima. And I thank you all for being here and being here for this celebration with us. I ask you, if you have not yet done so, please subscribe to this channel. Please like this video. Also visit our website, dharmacentral.com. And there you will find a full a website that is a full resource for Sanatana Dharma, with books, with so much information that is there. And with that, I thank you again for being here. Please join us again next Monday. Namaste. Jaya Shriman Narayana. Jaya Bhagavan Shri Krishna. Jaya Shri Guru. Sanatana Dharma Jayate. Dharma Rashtra Jayate. Surya Vangsha Jayate. Victory to Sanatana Dharma. Victory to the Dharma nation. Victory to the Solar dynasty. Victory to Shri Guru. Evam bhavattu. May such victory be so. And so it shall be. Everyone, until the next time that we get together, I ask you please, in every way, please take very good care of yourselves.